Hey everybody, it's Mark Pereira here again. So today I want to talk to you. I'm here in my little office. It's actually my room, but I'm looking at a lot of stuff that we're talking about on our lore thread on the Northern Society lore threads on Telegram. And one of the things we've been looking at is eschatology, right? Now, a lot of people have asked me over the years, they've asked me, why is it that you guys presented like these 9 virtues that, so I got my kiddo too with me too. So there she's right there laying out with me. So you'll hear her cooing. But, I got these, we have 9 virtues that we use, and they're different from the 9 noble virtues that people typically use. And they ask us why. Now, we don't knock what any group does. What you have going on is your business, and that's your tradition, and you follow that, and that's awesome, right? But what we're doing is research, and that's what we do, and that's what we're putting together. And we don't follow things simply because people tell us to follow things, simply because they say that this is something that we have to do, right? So what we do is we follow the research, and the research that we have done, the eschatology. She's just getting really loud, isn't she? The eschatology that we follow and the research that we do has led us, to look at these 9 vices first, right? The reason why we look at the 9 vices is because these are mentioned in our lore. They're mentioned in our stories. They're mentioned in Voluspa. You have murder, adultery, and perjury are mentioned in there, and then there's other sources that talk about greed and thievery. Solar Yod is a big one, even though Solar Yod has some Christian imagery in it. It also has a lot of really strong heathen imagery in it, and a lot of the passages in there are backed up by other sources as well. You have a mentioning in Regensmal, then there's Sigdrifamal and Havamal. There's mentionings in sagas and stuff like that, right? So we have lore that backs this up. However, the big thing is, right, and this is where our battle is going to come in here, right? Because we have to, fight off the secular heathens who try to pretend like this isn't really, we don't have anything like that. And anytime you find a passage like that, that's really just Christianity just seeping its way into the Eddas and all that, right? Because, they just don't like it. And so they don't like it, it's not a part of the religion, right? Or the belief system. Some people don't even like me saying the word religion. Oh, that's not right either, right? Because these secular heathens, man, they just make up what they want. It is what they want it to be, right? It's not backed up by any research or sources. It might be backed up by some academic treatments and stuff like that who say that, but those guys are always trying to deconstruct our lore. So the so what do we do? How do we prove it? How do we back it up? How do we say, that this concept of an afterlife punishment, for doing bad stuff, how can we, really say that that's valid? Well, what we do and how we can do this is we can look at other religions, other traditions that we know exist and don't have Christian influence on them, and don't have that, and do they have the same ideas? Well, I'm here, and I'm going to be looking at my computer here because I'm just going over Wikipedia real quick, and I know that's not like a really really trustworthy source, but we can get further into it. We can look into it further. So the first thing we'll look at is we know that in ancient Egypt, okay, it says here in Wikipedia, in ancient Egyptian religious tradition, citizens would recite the 42 negative confessions of Mat as their heart was weighed against the feather of truth. If the citizen's heart was heavier than a feather, they would be devoured by Amet, right? So there you go. You have a concept of damnation and punishment for being a bad person in Egyptian paganism that wasn't touched by Christianity. Let's go to the Greeks. And these are the only 2 I'll go into. I can get further, and we'll go into other ones and stuff like that. But in Greek mythology, Tartarus, we talk about Tartarus, right? And Tartarus is the deep abyss that is used as a dungeon of torment and suffering for the wicked, and as the prison for the Titans. Now that's pretty interesting for us because Niflhel is called a place of punishment and torment, and is basically a prison for the Rimthurses. Okay. So very similar ideas. You have Hades, that is the god of of this Tartarus realm, and just like we have Hela or Hel, who is the goddess of hell, and Niflhel, right? And she rules over it. She's actually the goddess Erd. We won't get into all that. Okay. So we have two pagan traditions, two heathen traditions that we know aren't touched by Christianity. One of them is completely, very connected to ours, right? There's an interesting here. Hesiod asserts that the bronze anvil falling from heaven would fall 9 days before it reached the earth. So then the anvil would take 9 more days to fall from Earth to Tartarus. Okay, that's pretty interesting because we actually have like statements in ours where it says it takes 9 days to get to Hell's realm, and then you have the nine realms of Niflhel that go further down. So again, very closely connected, very strong ideas of connection, and that's why I wanted to share these two. I wanted to share the Egyptian one to show you that there are foreign concepts, other polytheistic religions that have this, and then you also have, more close to home, the Greek tradition that's very close to ours because they have the Elysian fields as the realm of the blessed, and then they have Tartarus as the realm of the damned, just like we have hell is the realm of the blessed, and Niflhel is the realm of the damned. So then what we do, right, is we have nine vices, and those nine vices, are like murder, perjury, adultery, greed, sacrilege, thievery, slander, stuff like that, right? And then you have those nine vices, and then you flip them, right? And you have like honor, honesty, wisdom, courage, kindness, loyalty, independence, piety. They all just reverse, right? And so when we're looking at building a moral system, right? That moral system has to be connected to some sort of eschatology, right? The first thing we have to do, obviously, for many people, because many people look at sort of the pop culture representation of this belief system, is we have to eliminate the Valhalla imagery, right? Because the Valhalla imagery, the way it's presented by Snorri Sturluson and what's been popular by mythologists for years, is the idea that you die in battle and that's the only way you get any sort of positive afterlife, right? That's patently false, and it's proven wrong in the Edic sources, and not when you look away from Snorri Sturluson, who was a Christian who really was just writing a book of poetry. Then you look at the Edic sources and the research behind that. You can see that this thing of the dead, this judgment of the dead, it's mentioned in Ynglinga Saga. It's mentioned in the Eddas. It's mentioned all throughout these stories and ideas. And so you go to the underworld and you get judged by the gods, and then you get determined whether or not you go to hell, which is the Elysian fields, or Niflhel, which is the realm of the damned, right? And so people think, oh man, that sounds Christian, but then you have the Egyptians who believe the same thing, and the Greeks who believe the same thing, and there are Hindu sects that believe the same thing. Hinduism also mainly has the idea that you get reborn over and over and over again to basically try to get it right. There's a couple of mentions of reincarnation, but it's not a really big deal. We had more of an eschatology. And we can just look throughout the world. We'll just keep looking, and we'll find it, and it'll be there. And these secular heathen ideas are going to continue to be debunked and shown to be wrong. And it's really just fill in the blanks religion and people doing what they want to do, rather than trying to follow any kind of tradition that has any sort of basis to it. So, and I'm not saying we take all of this stuff literally. I'm not saying that, we're going to, start some sort of fire and brimstone, hell and damnation concept. What I'm saying is that consequences have actions. And the difference between like our belief system, our morality, and other morality, like the Christian morality and stuff like that, is, for one, that it's not based on grace. We don't go before a dictator and he tells us whether or not he gets to go in heaven no matter what you do. It's based upon honor, right? It's based upon integrity. It's not based upon moralism. People talk about like the 10 Commandments and all that stuff, but most of even though they have like don't kill and don't steal and stuff like that, most of the 10 Commandments are like, make sure you submit to this God in every single way, shape, and form, right? Don't worship other gods, only worship this God, only worship this God, stuff like that, right? That's like half of them. And whereas all of our morals and the ideas behind this are all, they're built upon the idea of how you treat other people, right? And an example I gave is like, you think of like a person like Joseph Stalin, right? And who killed 20 million people. Now imagine in your head 20 million people. Like imagine the largest event you ever seen in your life, and it's probably at most 150,000 people. 20 million people, and this guy fell asleep and died in his sleep peacefully, right? this is where eschatology comes in. This is where people, especially like when you're looking back in ancient times, people, you had some people who would rise up and be warlords, and they could be pretty cruel and kill a lot of people and stuff like that and cause a lot of suffering. People would look at that and be like, well, that guy killed all of his enemies, and then he just basically fell asleep one night and fell asleep in his bed and died. And it's like, what happens to that guy? Is that okay that he did that? Is it a just universe, or these just gods that we're worshiping that would allow something like that to happen? And so then you have an eschatology, you have a system where it's like, no, he doesn't get away with that. He did horrible things, and he needs to pay for it. So that's where that idea comes from, and it's throughout the whole world. Religions all over the world believe this. It's an idea, and you don't get to just create a religion out of these traditions and just say what it is, what you want it to be. You have to follow the research. You have to follow the sources. You have to look at it, and if you don't like what you find, then don't follow it. It's very simple. If you want to be an atheist, be an atheist. If you want to be a secularist, be a secularist. But just because you like Vikings or Marvel comics or whatever, or movies or whatever, it doesn't mean that you can just take the beliefs and take the traditions and turn it to whatever you want it to, because then it's not anything. Then it's just just whatever, right? But when you build traditions and you understand the sources and you look at the religion and you look at the connection of the gods, and we build like this core foundation, then you can actually develop a real belief system and a philosophy behind it, and something to pass down to your kids. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have that valuable, research and traditions built so that people can have them and they can build something that's authentic out of this. And that's what the Northern Society's doing. If anybody wants to join us, give us a shout out. We're at Norna membership at protonmail.com. I'll put it in the description and all that stuff. So yeah, come and see us. Come see what we're talking about.